my problem. I'm singing to your tune, hoping that you can follow the sound waves. Cause I'm already pouring my heart and soul into you. Wish you well. And I would never go the lengths that I've gone for you for anyone else. And wake me up, wake me up. I'm dreaming after you, chasing you in my sleep, babe. You know it's early afternoon, but it's the only way that I'll finally see your face. Cause I've been thinking about the days when you were mine. No set of rules, and I've been dreaming that's the way we're passing time with me and you. Don't wake me up, wake me up. Dreaming after you, loving you is my problem. I'm singing to your tune, hoping that you can follow the sound waves. Cause I'm already pouring my heart and soul into you. Wish you well. And I would never go the lengths that I've gone for you for anyone else. Wake me up.
And we're live. Okay. It's been a little while. Hello, everyone. Or hello, no one right now. But yeah, it's been a minute since I've done a live stream. Used to live stream all the time with my guys for our podcast. But it's been a while, so I'm getting back into it, getting used to it again. But decided to set up a brand new YouTube studio in the garage, as you do. But just finally have some room to spread out a little bit and have a permanent place to set up. So I thought I'd test out a live stream, see what's going on, see if anybody wants to hop on and have a conversation. I probably should spread this out and go to, like, you know, Instagram and the TikTok and other places for sure, but we'll see. Excuse me. Down the road. But for now, this is the way to go. We'll give this a try. Wish my face wasn't so fat right now. What are you gonna do? Life changes, things change. But yeah, so here we are back at the Matt Jackson channel. You know, in case anybody does end up going back and watching this, just give you kind of a rundown. Last couple of years, you know, sort of I fell out of love a little bit with all the gear reviews and all the things. The channel was starting to grow. I got some interest from, just very, very, very small companies to do reviews and things like that. And suddenly it just completely shifted from doing it for the passion and it became a job, because then I had marketing people and all that stuff, like, breathing down your throat to get things done. And I was like, this is not why. I already have my own business where I have 1,000 clients that I have to make happy. And now I have, people who make cell phone lenses getting upset about a video not getting released. So I decided to just put it on pause and focus on some other things. Of course, the business, the real estate side of the business started to grow quite a bit and is still a really major thing. But then, I've always loved cigars and cocktails. Was a bartender for a really long time. So I started something called the Cigar Bar, which was, I had a good time with that one as well. But just, like usual, didn't stay consistent with it. And it was fun. Had a good time. But I found that doing a channel that is based around drinking and smoking wasn't necessarily the healthiest choice in one's life. So I decided to we're going to let that one go. I have had a podcast for many years with some friends. And of course we have our YouTube channel, The Smoking Hot Nerds, but, fell off a little bit. People have babies and we're in 3 different time zones, and it just turned into a hard thing to keep consistent. I tried to revive it a little bit with some movie reviews and things like that. But then I just thought, you know what? This channel started as, filmmaking. Of course, when I started, I knew nothing by comparison to what I hope I know now, what I feel like I know now. And so why not just bring everything here? This is a channel that loves movies, obviously. It's what I do for a living. I had kind of shifted it a little bit to more lifestyle. When I started the channel, I began the channel in that time where guys like Peter McKinnon and the other guy, what was the guy's name? The guy with the white hair, Icelandic or something. Anyways, those dudes were starting to blow up on the scene. They were trying to be Casey Neistat, but camera focused. But then things started to edge toward all they were like, oh, here's my daily knife that I carry. Here's my one wheel. It got a little overly like goofy, but I wanted to shift my channel to a little bit more lifestyle and less just focused on filmmaking. And while that's not what anybody really wanted, I did it for a minute, but then kind of came back to the gear reviews and things like that as well. But we're going to just try to coalesce everything. The Cigars and Cocktails going to do a sort of like a podcast semi-regularly that we'll call Cigars and Cocktails. Sorry, that we'll call Cigars and Cinema, or Cocktails and Cinema, depending upon who I'm talking to. And I mean, obviously I can't smoke right here, so it would be fun to just have a drink and chat about a movie, because it's what we do. And I mean, everybody I know is either a film enthusiast or, an actual filmmaker themselves. So I mean, why not just do that here and move that stuff to this channel? Of course, continue some gear reviews and such, but also, movie reviews and things. So that's what I wanted to do today, is just hop on the live and, excuse me, just have a chat about this weekend. A lot went down. There was a few trailer drops, and there's been a couple over the last few weeks that have been kind of exciting, kind of cool, kind of good. That first one being that I want to bring up, this didn't air during the Super Bowl. It came out a few weeks ago, but it was the proper teaser trailer for the new James Gunn Superman movie. And it looked fine. It looked fun. I loved the use of the original Superman theme song that was played in it. Everyone looks the part. It looks fantastic. But there was so much annoyance with the last shot where Superman, played by, was it David Corenswet, was flying, and his eyes were kind of like this, and it was just kind of a weird looking shot for some people. And it was really interesting because, if you kind of know how it's done and you're looking at the thing, that they're shooting him extremely close up with an extremely wide lens. I mean, I would guess it is beyond 20 millimeters, probably somewhere in like the 18 or 14 or something crazy, which is, I mean, James Gunn is much more successful and probably logically more skilled than I am, and I don't know who the DP is on the thing, but I hesitate to use wide angle lenses and close ups on humans, because that's what happens. Is if no one's eyes are symmetrical. So if you're shooting, you're blasting a camera up there with an 18 millimeter lens on the poor guy's face, whatever's not symmetrical is going to look extra not symmetrical. So I thought it was kind of like an unfair shot and something kind of unfair to do to the actor. And I don't know why you need it wide angle, because if you're just shooting on green screen anyways, why not just shoot on a longer lens further back, and it'll look just fine. It'll look actually a little bit more dynamic, a little more interesting with that sort of wide lens and sort of the look. And this version of Superman, in terms of his costume and stuff, it's somewhere in between like Alex Smith. Oh man, what's this guy's name? If there's anybody watching, you can help me out. Alex Ross. Somewhere between Alex Ross's sort of style and a little more traditional. So the colors are very bright. Like we kind of went into that darker navy and maroon sort of colors for Henry Cavill. So I think that brightness, the wide angle, all that stuff, it just made it look like more like a CBS, what's the CW type show. So wasn't exactly what I think we were all looking for, but I thought it was dynamic. It sounded great. I like the dog, the Crypto. Why not? He's a cute dog. You just better not get hurt. I'll be real upset. That's for sure. But so that we had Superman. So, and then we had the Fantastic Four, which looked interesting for sure. I'm guessing, like, everyone's kind of speculating the reason that it looks like it's in sort of this mid-century version of Earth is maybe it's in an alternate timeline where technology advanced, but not necessarily style, not necessarily taste, or not taste, but they just stuck with that mid-century vibe for everything. And while that's fun, I think it's a fun idea. But here's the thing. The Incredibles did that futuristic 50s world. That Apple TV show with what's his name? With Billy Crudup did that, where they're like telling people that they're colonizing the moon, I think is what it was. Watched a couple of the episodes and it was fine. But yeah, Luke, that's just getting to that, the Fantastic Four trailer. And yeah, you're right. I never really cared about the comics. I don't know what it was. I was into comics for a very short amount of time when I was a kid, but it was Spider-Man. It was Michael Bendis sort of era of Spider-Man, Nova, Night Stalker, that little circle that was going on. That was my thing. So Fantastic Four never really interested me, but the trailer was good. I like that futuristic 50s world, which again is probably on an alternate universe, which I just hope we get out of the TVA timeline nonsense. We don't need to keep blowing timelines up just to do something different. Why can't we just make it happen there? Don't know why the Thing bothered everyone so much. I thought it looked fine, but the voice was kind of weird. I guess, I don't know. Was he ever described as having a grovelly voice in the comic book? But it was it was like a little too normal. And he's like tasting the sauce and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't really get that. But yeah, but it looked great. I have no problem with, what's his name, as Reed Richards. I mean, he's in absolutely everything. So I may as well just sit back and enjoy it. Like whatever. Vanessa Kirby, fantastic as the Invisible Woman, I think, and the Johnny Storm guy. I don't know anything about him, but looks fine. And yeah, but the world looks cool. We'll see what maybe the next trailer or so, if we get a little more information on what's going on. Yeah, Pedro Pascal. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name because he's in literally everything. Uh, which, to a certain extent, I feel like it sort of deludes the character a little bit when he kind of plays every sort of, if he's in like everything now, where it's, he's Mandalorian, he's also Reed Richards, and he's also in The Last of Us. And so after a while, it's like you're not seeing a character anymore. But at the same time, Han Solo, Indiana Jones were at the exact same time, uh, and no one was mad at Harrison Ford for it. So yeah, exactly. It's Incredibles. Like that's what this really is just it looks like the Incredibles, which is, I mean, I think the first Incredibles is probably like one of the greatest animated films, that's ever been made. It just hit all the genre points. And that's what's fun about doing something that is fresh, like The Incredibles. It's a completely brand new story, but it's playing on superhero tropes and it's playing on existing characters, but giving it a bit of a twist, or something like The Boys, why that was so successful for a couple seasons. It's like you're doing all the things that you would do with Superman or Fantastic Four or whatever, but it's not that. So you're not relying on the characters, nor are you you know, in danger of sort of like ruining the character's legacy or something like that. So, I mean, there's definite superhero fatigue for sure for me. I mean, I don't remember the last time I really, really watched a superhero thing with any sort of level of expectation or excitement. I mean, I guess Deadpool Wolverine was fun, but it felt like it was 2 hours of them stabbing each other, which was two characters that can't die. Is only a certain point at which you go, oh, that was fun. But by the third one, my teeth hurt from the sound of it all. But so, anyways, yeah, Fantastic Four looked good, looked fine. But then during the Super Bowl, we had the Thunderbolts. Now, Thunderbolts interests me because it's funny. I watch a lot of guys who talk movies and talk, and they tend to be pretty cynical, and I certainly am to a certain extent as well. But I don't know anything about the Thunderbolts from the comics. I don't think that any of these that are in the movie are original members from the comics either. So that's neither here nor there. But this is kind of what I'm talking about with like Incredibles versus Fantastic Four. You don't have any expectation going into this movie for what they're going to do. How are they going to affect? No one cares about the legacy of these characters so much, like the fake Black Widow and Ghost and all these characters. You're like, I don't really care. So do whatever you want to do. Just have some fun. I enjoyed Black Widow. I wasn't like mad at it or anything. But it was also just kind of a low stakes movie. You already knew that one of the characters is dead, basically down the road. And so you just kind of just sit and enjoy it. And it was fine. It got a little goofy towards the end there, but with this, I think it's sort of like ragtag. I know it's kind of Suicide Squad-y, but it's the opportunity to just kind of write something like purely original, which would be fun. I mean, of course, it's going to tie into the MCU, but I think it would be okay if we started having, kind of like Black Widow, a little bit, some movies that are a little bit more independent. And maybe that's why like the original Iron Man, who I loved so much, because you just went in with no expectations, relatively low budget movie with a star that was kind of a risk at the time, with a director who had just come off a huge box office bust. And now they're making the biggest things ever. And so you just went in with no expectations, and suddenly it was like, this is really good. But it was just a good script. It was just a good movie. Great sound effects, great VFX. And it was a long time ago, because now we've been through, this huge MCU timeline shift and change, and there's a new Captain America, and there's a new this and a new that and a new Hawkeye, and so that's how far we've come. Is that like, kids are taking over. The kids are taking over the mantle of the big characters. So, but anyways, that's why I really like the idea of Thunderbolts. It was gritty and kind of dirty in a good way. The trailer was okay, but I love the character of the Winter Soldier, Bucky, and I think David Harbour's always hilarious. So we'll see how it plays ultimately. But it looked like a lot of fun, like a lot of just. I hope it's just ruckus fun. As opposed to something that, I mean, again, yeah, it's going to have to tie into MCU because the main bad guy character, Sentinel, is that who that was? Who turns into the Void? Not to be confused with the Void from Deadpool Wolverine slash Loki. But anyway, looked fun. I hope it's fun. One that does not look fun and I have no interest in is Jurassic Park. What are we doing? Why are we doing another I mean, at this point in time, it's just another Transformers. There's absolutely no need for it. There's no more story that needs to be told. It was done at the first one, as far as I'm concerned. I think the original Jurassic Park was. I mean, obviously, it was peak Spielberg. So why are we doing this again? It's just another bigger lizard in the ocean that Scarlett Johansson has to fight, and that's not interesting to me whatsoever. So yeah, definitely will be skipping Jurassic Park 19. What is this, like the 8th? Something like that. It's too many. Let me see what I wrote down. What else we had drop-ish. Yes. Yeah. Scarlett Johansson, Luke. I don't know. I mean, I guess. I think it's one of those. It's one of those people who it's just a safe bet. You're not necessarily going to attract new customers or new viewers, but you're also not necessarily also going to turn people off by it. She's just kind of a safe bet, and it's all just a dang business at this point in terms of who has the most cachet versus another person. And she's kind of not controversial. Like if it was Blake Lively or what's her name, the Amber Heard or something like that, you'd be questioning like, what are you doing? But I think ScarJo's just kind of an up the middle person. It's interesting though, because she started as such like an indie darling, and that was her whole thing was kind of like the insufferable indie girl, and now it's like action star, which I mean I think is kind of the trajectory that famous actors go through. They start with like, oh, look how gritty they are in this movie, and then they're an action star, kind of like Chris Pratt. It's like, oh, he's this chubby funny guy, and now he's an action star. So it's like, well, I guess that's just the way you go. But yeah, I think she's just extremely up the middle, so that's why it'll work for everybody. And I don't know how much they spent on the movie, but hopefully it wasn't very much, because I just don't see these movies doing that well anymore in movie theaters. But I could be wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong. Oh yes, Lilo and Stitch. I know that Disney's not listening, but can you stop it? Can you stop redoing everything you've already done? It's not necessary. It's kind of puts a little blight on the legacy. I thought Lilo and Stitch was absolutely a brilliant movie for a lot of reasons. One of which was the animation was fantastic. It wasn't attempting to be realistic. It was extremely stylistic. Watercolor backgrounds, like matte painting type things, like old school animation. The characters were stylized, and it was smooth, but it had sort of it wasn't choppy like anime, but it also wasn't just that perfectly buttery rotoscope sort of look that something like like with the original, like Snow White was trying to do, or Cinderella, like really trying to completely mimic people's motions. This had a style to it that was all its own. And I mean, the character of Stitch was hysterical, and the story was great, chokes you up all the time. So you already did it. You created a brilliant film. And I know these are just going to be, all right, Luke, have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. I'm going to keep having a meeting by myself. And so, but yeah, the original was beautiful. And I mean, it's a money grab. I know the Lion King stuff, Mufasa, everything trying to do a live action version of every uh, movie that was successful is just so frustratingly annoying because it's not necessary. Rely on the amazing legacy of those films and build on it by making something else that's completely new, original, stylized, that will capture an audience's imagination. But see, that's the problem, is that the people in charge and the creatives at these certain levels have absolutely no imagination. It's all being run by bureaucrats and accounting and legal, and not by the creatives. They're not being. So I read the Walt Disney biography. Forget the guy's name, but it's kind of the one. Incredibly long book. But it describes those early days of Disney and building that business as utterly grueling. I mean, these guys were working 24 hours a day to perfect their craft, to perfect the story, to perfect everything that surrounded even when it came to marketing and things like that. They were obsessed with it, but they were obsessed with the art. They were obsessed with, creating the best movie, the best piece of art possible. And that's just not the case anymore. There's not an obsession with creativity or making things better. It's just an obsession with the bottom line. And preaching at people, telling them what they need to be thinking at any given moment in time, which is just absurd. Make good art. That heyday of Disney when I was a kid, which was Aladdin, Lion King, Little Mermaid, and to a certain extent, you start to see like Pocahontas and Hunchback, Emperor's New Groove, but those three were mind-blowingly good, story-wise, animation-wise. There was so much about it. And then when you try to revisit that and you're like, okay, we're going to make a live-action Little Mermaid that looks worse than the animated version, where the CG was horrific and the water, the sort of the dry for wet look, all that, it just did not work visually. But again, you're just rehashing old thing, and then you're casting new people in roles that were already perfected by the previous person. And even though they're not real people in the animated thing, it's a real human being behind it all. And each artist had his own style. In Little Mermaid, or Beauty and the Beast is the one I'm forgetting. So those four. Beauty and the Beast was, every artist, the guy who was drawing Beast was maybe also drawing another character and inflicting his own personality and style into it, while all trying to maintain a breadth of style throughout the film. And so it's just a different world. And I think that we're not seeing things from pure creativity because everything seems to need to have something to say. And that just seems like an incorrect way to go about art, because when you're trying to say something, it becomes a moment in time. Because there's certainly plenty of movies that have sort of themes that go along with where the culture is during the time. Coppola's early films and some of Sidney Lumet stuff, and it's addressing certain things that are going on, but then it becomes that thing. And are there relevancies that continue throughout history? Of course there are, but there's no, but it's no longer timeless. Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Lion King, those movies are timeless. They don't have things in them that you're like, oof, that's a dated way of thinking about it. Just they exist. And so with Lilo and Stitch, just stop remaking all the good stuff, you know. And don't go the other way either. Don't go making like a live action Incredibles or something. Just let these things exist and build on that. That's what I think. But so what else do we have? Oh, well, it wasn't really a new trailer for the F1 movie, which I'm a huge F1 fan. Oh, I think I'm wearing my Mercedes hat. Yeah. Love F1. So I'm excited about this movie. I mean, I love Brad Pitt, Javier Bardem. It looks great, and it looks like it's going to have a fair amount of tie-in with real people, real characters, because they've been shooting obviously a ton of stuff at actual races, so that they get crowd, so that they get Brad Pitt and his co-star on the grid with the other drivers. It looks great. Looks like it sounds great. I know that they were shooting a ton during in between races and mounting cameras to the car and having Brad Pitt driving. I think it was an F2 car that they had to kind of made to look F1. But here's what I'm worried about. And I shouldn't be worried because it doesn't really matter. But, it's taken them 2.5 years plus to make this movie. There's a lot of people who are going to be in the film who aren't in F1 anymore, or in different capacities or at different teams, or the teams themselves are called something different. So it'll be interesting to see if that makes it feel dated at all. Because the thing about Formula One, if you don't watch, is it's constantly changing in terms of its sort of visibility when it comes to the technology, because every year the car looks different incrementally, but sometimes you look back and you're like 3 years ago, 3 years ago, that car looked completely different. Your sponsors change constantly on the cars. So they're always changing their livery, the way that the car is painted. And drivers are always bouncing around. Team principals are getting, sacked, as they like to say, all the time. So anyways, it'll be interesting. I think that it'll be fine because whatever time period this takes place in, which would be probably like the F1 world of like 2 years ago, it's not going to feel that weird. But what's also interesting is these guys who are the F1 drivers, they're all in their like early, mid 20s. And some of them physically look different from just 2 years ago. Max Verstappen looks physically different from 2 years ago because he's growing up. He's becoming a man, basically, right in front of our very eyes. And so be curious to see how much of that has changed, because they've been shooting it for 2 seasons, 2 F1 seasons. So there'll be a lot going on in that. But I'm excited about it. Kind of curious why they just called it F1 instead of giving it like a proper name. I don't know. I think that was Ted Kravitz's whole thing. He's like, F1, movie about F1. Gonna call it F1. Couldn't come up with anything else. But I think it's a branding thing and probably just the safest bet. Just call it F1. Everyone can have the money that they want to have for it. But looks great. Looks fun. Looks realistic. And I hope it is, because up to this point, racing movies are rough to watch. As if you really like watching Formula One in particular, it can look pretty fake in film. But I think the Senna series, which probably have a little conversation, maybe an episode about that at some point. The Senna series was fantastic, and the way that the driving was portrayed was spot on. Definitely highly recommend that show for sure. And then we had Mission Impossible 8. That's what it was. So my girlfriend and I started revisiting Mission Impossibles like maybe a year ago. And the first like 3 or so, 4 maybe, are so good. Like they're just great. The first one's great, and it's such a moment in time. That's what I love about the fact that there's 8 of them and it's stretched over the period of 20 years. Is technology, how we thought about technology, how we thought about using technology is completely different in the late 90s as it is now. And you also got to see people like Thandie Newton and people who were brand new actors in these roles in the movies. So first ones were great, but then I don't know if it was the Henry Cavill one or what it was. It finally hit critical mass where I was just like, I can't do any more of this, and it was getting so confusing, so couldn't. So now we got the last one, the 8th one. God bless him. God bless Tom Cruise. But I'm not going to see it. I would have to go back anyways and revisit the ones towards the end here, because I'm sure that they'll have a bunch of callbacks and everything. So, but didn't see the previous one. So I think I haven't seen maybe 6, 7, 8 or so. But man, those original 2 or 3 were good. They're kind of the precursor to the modern James Bond, the Daniel Craig James Bond. But yeah, I don't know. Mission Impossible. It's like it's time to put it to rest. Just don't kill Ethan Hunt. And then I think the last one that I saw was Megan 2, which I never saw Megan 1, but this one was just a teaser. So I don't know. We'll see if how it does. I need to watch the first one to kind of have any context as to why we would need a second. But there were a few other, a number of other trailers. I think that not necessarily the first trailer dropped, but that we're hitting, but didn't really watch much else. But it was an interesting. Oh, for one, I'm a Broncos fan. Lifelong. So there was tremendous amount of joy, regardless of the fact that a couple of my best friends in the world are Chiefs fans. It brought me some joy to see them lose. So I'm sorry, Nick. Sorry, Brian. Sorry, anyone else that I can't think of right now. But yeah, it was a fun. I mean, I enjoyed the game. I know I was a little grumpy at first about it, because I'm like, Chiefs and Eagles again. But it was imperative that the Chiefs not get a three-peat, and they did not. So happy with that. Pretty unintelligible halftime show. It's not my thing. I'm not a music guy whatsoever. I don't like music. I know that sounds strange to say, but I don't listen to music. I haven't a clue about who is who and why. So you could have had Taylor Swift, could have had Kendrick Lamar, you could have had, I don't know, in Frankie Valli. It would have all been the same to me. Frankie Valli would be a good one though. Just march him out there like a robot. Wouldn't have to have any dancing. You just stand there on a spotlight, no stage. Can make that halftime shorter. I think that kind of kills, for me, it kills the momentum of the game. I know that the game is an event much bigger than the game, but I would sense that it would also kind of affect the momentum that the guys are feeling on the field, and especially when you're going into the locker room at 24-0 or 27-0, whatever it was. I would imagine that you got to have some real mental fortitude to go in there and not, lose the drive, because you're going in hot, sweaty, and then you're just going to sit there and get cold. And so they should work on shortening the halftime show just a little bit. Because it's not necessary. I mean, and I'm not here to watch a concert. And also, I mean, I guess people who are there, that's exciting for them. But if anyone's been to a live show in a stadium of that size, knows that it's pretty hit or miss on whether it is actually as great as it looks on screen. But otherwise, yeah, it was a fun game, and there was a lot of commercials, some that were great, some that were perplexing, and some that were not good. So maybe we'll do a live stream tomorrow or a conversation, because I should just do videos on these things, but sometimes it's fun just to jibber jabber about it. As a commercial filmmaker myself, I have a lot of thoughts on some of the commercials. And it feels like sometimes, as with everything, you're getting preached at all the time from all angles. And sometimes it just doesn't feel like there's a real point to it. It feels very meandering and word salady. To like the Jeep one was like, I love the open roads and all the, it was like this vibe that felt very done and very passé. And it's like, if you want to say something, say something. I would rather have you have a real opinion than to just kind of meander through words. It wasn't a commercial, but it was the Brad Pitt thing at the beginning about the huddle, and it's time for America to huddle up, or whatever it was. It was just like, what are we doing here? And please stop telling me what to do. That's what I think when I'm watching commercials like this. It's like, can you just stop telling me what to do? I can't. But yeah, maybe we'll have a conversation in a couple of days about all of the commercials, since that is a bit of what I do, and maybe I'll get somebody on here to chat with us, so that I'm not just talking at your face telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just here. So, well, anyways, this was fun. It's all working, which is great. That's kind of the point. The initial point of this was I just wanted to test the live stream, make sure it sounded good, looked good, and everything. And yeah, here we are. We got a new studio to play in, and I'll show you pictures. Well, you don't need to see pictures. This is all you need to see right here, because otherwise it's pretty disappointing. Well, there's the gym is over here, so that's cool. One day I'll have a garage that I actually park my car in. It'd be very exciting. So, all right, everyone, thanks for stopping by. Thank you also to everyone, since I started reposting videos or posting videos again. Amazing response, and people are engaging, and subscribership is increasing, and it's just like, this feels great. So thank you to everyone who has subscribed already, who's liked the videos, who have commented. Even the mean comments are sometimes fun. So thank you all for that, and it's good to be back. And I'll start posting a few things, some older videos that I did on another channel, just kind of get a taste for whether you all like this or not. And this sort of like this move into a little bit more filmmaking talk, a little bit more pop culture, not necessarily pop culture, but conversations around, TV and film. And we'll see if we like it. And if we like it, great. If we don't like it, I'll probably just keep doing it anyways. So, all right. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. And we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
I'm dreaming after you, chasing you in my sleep, babe. No, surely I